Maya tied her apron tightly around her waist and took a deep breath as she stepped into the warm, bustling restaurant. The smell of freshly baked bread, sizzling food, and rich coffee filled the air, mingling with the soft clatter of plates and the low hum of conversations. She adjusted her name tag, smoothed her hair, and prepared herself for the busy evening ahead. Another shift, another crowd of hungry customers, another night to prove her patience and skill. She had been working at this restaurant for almost 3 years now, and in that time, she had learned every corner of the floor, every regular customer's preferences, and even the subtle hints that told her when someone was about to complain. Maya moved quickly but gracefully, balancing trays loaded with food and drinks while flashing her warm, genuine smile at everyone she passed. There were moments when she wished she could slow down, take a breath, or even sit quietly with a cup of tea, but she had learned that the restaurant floor never waited for anyone. Maya loved her job, even though it was exhausting. She enjoyed the way she could make someone's day better with a small gesture, a refill of water before it ran dry, a gentle word to calm a nervous child, or a perfectly folded napkin placed carefully on the table. To some, these were small, unnoticed tasks, but to Maya, they were the heart of her work. She liked making people feel welcome, like they mattered. And yet, no matter how hard she worked, it was rare that anyone saw the effort behind the smile, the long hours on her feet, or the invisible weight she carried from day to day. Her life outside the restaurant was simple and filled with responsibilities. Maya lived with her younger brother, who depended on her for everything from school fees to meals. Every dollar she earned went toward supporting him, paying rent, and saving just a little for emergencies. Some nights, she went home with aching feet and barely enough energy to eat, yet she never complained. Her family's well-being was far more important than her own comfort, and she took pride in knowing that her hard work allowed her brother to chase his dreams without worry. As the evening crowd started to arrive, Maya noticed the first table of the night, a family with 2 young children, excited and chatty. She approached with a cheerful greeting. "Good evening. How is everyone tonight?" The parents smiled politely, and the children waved shyly at her. She knew that serving families like this could be challenging, as kids were unpredictable and parents often stressed, but Maya thrived on small challenges like these. It gave her a sense of purpose to see the smiles on their faces when she brought the food they had ordered with care. Around her, the restaurant was alive with energy. Glasses clinked, chairs scraped softly against the polished floor, and laughter bounced off the walls. Some customers spoke loudly over their meals, eager to share stories or make jokes with friends. Others whispered quietly, immersed in their own little worlds. Maya noticed it all. She had trained herself to read the subtle signs, the frown that meant a meal wasn't quite right, the tapping fingers that meant a guest was impatient, or the way someone's eyes lit up when a dish arrived exactly how they had hoped. Maya's co-workers hustled around too, some familiar faces she could rely on, others new staff still learning the ropes. The energy in the kitchen was different but just as intense. The chefs shouted orders and laughed at inside jokes, the steam and smoke mixing with the aroma of spices and sauces, creating a sensory whirlwind. From the dining floor, it could look chaotic, but Maya knew there was rhythm in the chaos, and she moved through it like a dancer, part of the carefully orchestrated ballet of service. Despite the rush, Maya never let herself look frustrated or tired. She had learned early in her career that customers responded to her energy. A smile could turn an unhappy guest into a loyal one. A kind word could transform a stressful situation into a memorable experience. Every interaction mattered, even the briefest one. Maya carried this philosophy with her, believing that her job was not just about serving food but serving dignity, respect, and care. As the night went on, the restaurant filled with more customers. Businessmen in suits, couples on dates, students laughing over shared meals. Maya moved between tables, taking orders, serving dishes, and refilling drinks, all while keeping her thoughts organized in her head. She remembered each person's preferences, remembered to bring extra napkins for the messy eaters, and made small talk with those who wanted it. By the time the first hour had passed, she had already run more than 5 miles in steps alone, but she barely noticed. Her satisfaction came from seeing satisfied customers leave the restaurant with smiles, laughter, and sometimes even a sincere thank you. Yet beneath her smile, Maya often felt unnoticed. Tips were small, and praise was rarer. Most people only saw her as a waitress, not the person behind the apron who carried responsibility, hopes, and dreams. She sometimes wondered if her efforts would ever be truly recognized, if her dedication would ever make a difference beyond the walls of this busy restaurant. But Maya didn't give up. She believed that every act of kindness, no matter how small, mattered. And deep down, she hoped that someday, someone would notice not just her service, but her heart. And so, Maya continued, moving through the crowded tables with grace and determination, the steady rhythm of her steps blending with the sounds of the restaurant, carrying on with the quiet pride of someone who knew the value of hard work, patience, and unwavering kindness. The restaurant was humming with life, the chatter of diners blending with the clinking of glasses and the soft rustle of napkins. Maya had barely caught her breath after the first hour when the front door swung open with a soft chime. A man stepped inside, but there was something unusual about him. Not in a way that screamed wealth or fame, but in a subtle way that made him stand out among the ordinary crowd. He wore a worn brown jacket, slightly faded at the elbows, and a simple cap pulled low over his forehead. His shoes were scuffed, and his hands were clean but unremarkable. At first glance, he could have been anyone, a regular man seeking a quiet meal. Maya's trained eyes quickly assessed him. He didn't walk with the rush of someone desperate or distracted. There was a calmness in his step, a measured way of moving that suggested he observed everything around him. She found herself intrigued, though she couldn't yet understand why. The hostess led him to a small corner table near the window. The lights above cast a warm glow on the polished wood, making the table look inviting. He nodded politely to the hostess and then glanced around the restaurant, as if taking in the entire scene, the waitresses rushing between tables, the laughter of children, the soft hum of background music. There was a presence about him that felt commanding, yet oddly gentle, a quiet authority that didn't demand attention but naturally drew it. Maya approached his table with her usual smile, holding her notepad ready. "Good evening. Welcome. My name is Maya. How can I help you tonight?" she asked, her voice calm but warm, the way she always greeted new guests. The man looked up at her, and for the first time, she noticed the depth in his eyes. Sharp, intelligent, yet kind. "Good evening," he said softly. "I trust you. Whatever you recommend, I'll have." Maya blinked, slightly taken aback. Most guests had preferences, specific requests, or at least questions about the menu. This man, however, gave her complete trust, an unusual gesture that felt almost intimate in its simplicity. "Well," she said thoughtfully, "our chef special tonight is the grilled salmon with a honey glaze, served with roasted vegetables and garlic mashed potatoes. It's very popular, and I think you'll enjoy it." He nodded once, a small smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "That sounds perfect. Thank you." As Maya walked away, she couldn't help but glance back. There was something different about him, something she couldn't quite place. Most guests arrived, ate, and left without leaving any impression. But this man, he seemed to notice everything, from the careful plating of food to the way she moved across the floor. There was an attentiveness in his gaze, almost as if he was watching not just the restaurant, but her, the way she worked, the way she smiled, the way she treated every customer with care. The night pressed on, and Maya continued her rounds, checking on other tables, taking orders, and refilling drinks. Every now and then, her eyes drifted back to the corner table. The man ate slowly, savoring each bite, never rushing, never glancing at his phone, never appearing impatient. Other customers might have been distracted by phones, conversations, or complaints, but he was entirely present, engaged in the moment, and somehow that presence made Maya feel as though she had met someone truly rare. He didn't call for anything extra or ask for special treatment. He simply existed in the restaurant, quietly observing, quietly appreciating. Maya noticed how he subtly thanked the staff with small gestures, holding the door open for a passing waiter, giving a nod to the kitchen staff, smiling at other customers without being intrusive. There was humility in his actions, an unusual quality for someone who carried such quiet authority. When Maya returned to take his drink order, he caught her eyes and said something unexpected. "You have a very special way of working, you know. Most people rush through their tasks, but you make people feel seen." Maya's cheeks flushed slightly. It wasn't often that a guest noticed her effort, much less commented on it. "Thank you," she murmured, unsure how to respond. The compliment felt different somehow, more genuine, more weighty than the usual pleasantries she received. As she left his table again, she realized her curiosity about him had grown. Who was he, really? Why did he choose this small restaurant tonight, in disguise, wearing ordinary clothes? And why did his presence make the entire evening feel extraordinary? Little did she know, the answer to these questions would soon change her life, turning an ordinary night into one she would never forget. Maya approached the corner table again, her notepad ready, but this time there was something different in the way she felt. The man sitting there wasn't like the others. His calm, steady presence made the busy restaurant seem quieter somehow, as if the world had slowed down just around him. She tried to shake the feeling, reminding herself she had hundreds of tables to attend to tonight, but curiosity clung to her. "Your drink," she said softly, placing a tall glass of sparkling water in front of him. Her hands shook ever so slightly, not from nervousness, but from the strange sense that this dinner might be unlike any other she had served. He looked up at her and smiled faintly, a small curve of lips that carried warmth without arrogance. "Thank you," he said. His voice was calm and measured, carrying a quiet authority, yet there was no hint of superiority. It was the kind of voice that could make someone feel both at ease and important at the same time. "You're welcome," Maya replied, straightening slightly, trying to act as professional as ever. But as she looked into his eyes, she caught something unexpected, a spark of recognition, as if he could see beyond her uniform, past the apron, straight to the person she was beneath. "What would you recommend?" he asked, leaning back slightly in his chair. "I trust your judgment." Maya blinked. Not many guests left the choice entirely up to her. Some were picky, some indecisive, and some simply rude. But this man had a quiet confidence in her that she had rarely experienced before. "Our chef special tonight is the honey-glazed salmon with roasted vegetables and garlic mashed potatoes," she said carefully, her voice steady. "It's one of our most popular dishes, and it's prepared with great care." He nodded, not hurriedly, not impatiently, just a slow, deliberate nod, as though every word she spoke mattered. "That sounds perfect," he said simply. "I'll have that, please." Maya felt a shiver run down her spine. There was nothing extraordinary about his request, nothing flashy, but there was a weight to his attention that made her feel noticed. Really noticed. And that was rare in a world where waitresses were often invisible, background figures in the lives of their customers. She moved away, but as she walked, she couldn't help stealing a glance at him. He was watching the restaurant, the staff, even the other diners, with a soft but precise focus. It wasn't curiosity like a tourist's, it was observation, careful and deliberate, almost as if he were studying the way kindness and service played out in real time. Throughout the evening, Maya found herself returning to his table more than usual, not because he requested it, but because her instincts told her there was something unusual about him. Every movement, every polite nod to the staff, every appreciative glance at the meals arriving at other tables, it all told her that he noticed more than most. When she checked on him after bringing his first course, he smiled faintly. "You move with such care," he said, almost in passing. "Not many people put this much attention into what they do." Maya paused, unsure how to respond. Compliments from strangers were rare, and compliments that felt sincere were even rarer. Thank you," she said softly, her heart fluttering. Something about the way he said it made her feel valued, more than she had felt in years. As the night went on, the restaurant grew busier, yet Maya noticed that he never rushed, never glanced at his watch, never appeared bored. He ate slowly, savoring each bite, occasionally looking around with quiet interest. He didn't order anything extravagant, didn't ask for special treatment, didn't make demands. He simply existed in the space with grace, a calm presence that seemed to highlight everything Maya did. By the time the main course was cleared, Maya felt a strange connection forming, though she couldn't explain it. There was something in the way he observed her, not as a waitress serving food, but as a person, a human being doing her best in a small, ordinary world. His attention wasn't intrusive or overbearing. It was gentle, respectful, and somehow grounding. She returned to him once more before dessert. "Is everything okay?" she asked, careful, professional, yet curious. He looked up, meeting her eyes fully this time. "More than okay," he said, and there was a pause. "You have a rare gift, Maya. Most people rush through life, forget about the little things, but you make people feel seen. That matters." Maya felt her breath catch. She had heard compliments before, but none like this. None that went beyond appearances, none that recognized her effort, her heart, her care. For the first time in a long while, she felt seen in the way she had always hoped someone would notice. Not for her uniform, not for her job, but for the person she was. Little did she know, this first impression, the small but profound moment of recognition, was just the beginning. The night was about to turn into something she could never have imagined, and her life was about to change forever. As the evening went on, the restaurant's energy seemed to grow with every passing hour. The clinking of glasses, the soft laughter of diners, and the occasional call from the kitchen blended into a familiar rhythm that Maya had learned to move through like clockwork. Yet, tonight, something felt different. Every step she took, every tray she carried, seemed to register more than usual. The man in the corner table, the one who had quietly observed her since his arrival, seemed to notice everything. Maya moved to a table where a young child had spilled juice all over the placemat, leaving sticky stains on the table. Without hesitation, she knelt down with a warm smile. "Don't worry, sweetie," she said gently, grabbing a damp cloth. "Accidents happen." The child's eyes lit up, and the mother let out a relieved sigh. As Maya cleaned the mess, she chatted lightly with the little one, making the small moment feel important, even magical. From her corner, the disguised man watched silently, a subtle smile tugging at his lips. He noticed how Maya never seemed frustrated or impatient, even when juggling multiple tables, demanding customers, and unexpected messes. Each act of care, no matter how small, seemed effortless for her. He could see that it came from genuine kindness rather than obligation. Next, Maya approached an elderly couple struggling to read the menu under the dim restaurant lights. She crouched beside them and brought over a small lamp from the counter, adjusting it so they could see clearly. "There you go," she said softly. "Now you can see everything perfectly." The couple's eyes filled with gratitude, and the woman whispered a quiet thank you that Maya caught with a smile. She could have walked away, like many waitresses might, but she lingered just enough to make them feel respected. Back at his table, the man, still disguised, scribbled notes on a small pad he had pulled from his jacket. He didn't write down the menu or the service details, he wrote down Maya's actions. Every gesture of kindness, every patient smile, every moment she made someone feel seen. It wasn't her job that impressed him, it was her heart. In his years of business, he had encountered countless employees who worked efficiently but without soul. Maya was different. She carried her care quietly, without expecting recognition, and that humility was rare. Maya then attended to a group of young adults at a lively table, some joking, some teasing, and one clearly frustrated by a delayed order. She calmly addressed the problem, apologizing sincerely and explaining what had caused the delay, all while offering a small gesture to make it right. The frustrated guest softened, and laughter returned to the table. To the man in the corner, this was another glimpse into her character. She didn't just solve problems, she healed small tensions, restored joy, and made everyone around her feel valued. As the night unfolded, he noticed that Maya's attention was never selective. She didn't save her best behavior for the polite guests or those who left bigger tips. She treated everyone equally, busy parents, messy children, quiet seniors, chatty groups, or indifferent singles. Her dedication was steady, unwavering, and sincere. In a world where kindness could be conditional or performative, Maya's was genuine. During a brief moment when the restaurant had slowed slightly, he observed her pacing between tables with tireless energy. She refilled glasses before anyone asked, cleared empty plates swiftly, and checked in with a smile on every face. He noticed how she remembered details, who preferred extra ice, who liked their salad dressing on the side, who had mentioned a stressful day at work. She wasn't just serving food, she was reading people, understanding them, and anticipating their needs without them even realizing it. The man, still unnoticed by others, leaned back in his chair and whispered softly to himself, "This is someone extraordinary." He had seen employees come and go, talented or efficient, but few had the combination of heart, humility, and skill that Maya displayed effortlessly. Each small act of care added to a bigger picture of who she was. A person who could transform an ordinary restaurant visit into a moment of genuine human connection. Even Maya didn't realize how powerful her actions were tonight. She thought she was just doing her job, fulfilling the same duties she had carried out for years. But through the eyes of the disguised billionaire, every smile, every patience-driven gesture, every small kindness became proof of something rare. A person with integrity, empathy, and the quiet strength to lift others while remaining unseen. By the time the evening was well underway, the man in the corner table had made a silent decision. Maya's kindness, her attention to detail, and her humility had left a mark on him. He didn't know how or when, but he knew he wanted to recognize her in a way that went far beyond a tip or a casual compliment. This was someone who deserved to be seen for the incredible person she truly was, and he intended to make sure she finally was. The restaurant was beginning to quiet down. The dinner rush had passed, and the warm hum of conversation had softened into scattered laughter and soft music. Maya wiped down a few empty tables, her muscles tired but her spirit still steady. She felt the familiar satisfaction of another evening well handled, though the corners of her feet ached and her hands were slightly sore from carrying trays all night. She was used to this routine, the endless rhythm of orders, plates, and polite smiles. Yet, something made her glance toward the corner table again. The man who had arrived earlier, calm, quiet, observant, was now finishing the last bite of his meal. He hadn't asked for anything extra, hadn't fussed over his dish, and hadn't complained once. He simply sat, savoring the meal and watching the restaurant with a quiet attentiveness that set him apart. Maya carried the check over to him, expecting a simple exchange like every other table that night. She smiled as she handed him the folder. "Here's your check. I hope everything was satisfactory," she said, her tone polite yet gentle, the same it had been with every other guest. He looked up at her, and for a brief moment, there was an intensity in his gaze that made her pause. "It was more than satisfactory," he said softly. "It was exceptional." He slid the folder across the table toward her, but it didn't contain just the payment. There was something tucked neatly inside, folded with care. Curiosity stirred in Maya as she picked up the folder. It was unusual for a customer to leave anything other than cash or credit card. Slowly, carefully, she opened it and felt the smooth paper of a note beneath the check. Her fingers trembled slightly. She unfolded it, expecting perhaps a compliment, maybe a tip with a short message. But what she saw instead made her heart skip a beat. The note was written in confident, deliberate handwriting. Every word seemed to carry weight, every sentence carefully chosen. Maya's eyes widened as she read the first line. "Maya, tonight you served me with dignity, patience, and kindness without knowing who I am." Her brow furrowed slightly, disbelief flashing across her features. She read the words again, slower this time, trying to make sense of them. The note continued. "I am Daniel Calloway, founder and owner of this restaurant chain, and I have spent years searching for someone who understands the true meaning of hospitality. You have impressed me tonight beyond words, and I would like to meet you tomorrow morning in my office to discuss a new opportunity." Maya's hands shook. Daniel Calloway. The name alone was enough to make her heart race. She had heard of him in passing, stories in the news, whispers among employees, legends of his rarely seen visits. And here he was, a man she had unknowingly served, praising her with words that felt like validation of everything she had worked for. Her mind raced. She thought of every long shift she had endured, every moment she had smiled through exhaustion, every patient word she had spoken to demanding customers. Years of hard work, of quiet perseverance, of putting others first, all boiled down to this single, folded note. And it was more than recognition. It was acknowledgement of her worth, something she had rarely felt in her life. Tears welled in her eyes before she could stop them. Warm, uncontrollable tears that carried relief, joy, and disbelief all at once. She pressed a hand to her mouth, trying to hold them back, but it was impossible. This was more than a compliment. It was a turning point, a signal that her life was about to change in a way she had never imagined. Her co-worker, Jenna, noticed her sudden stillness and approached quietly. "Maya, are you okay?" she asked softly. Maya handed her the note without saying a word. Jenna's eyes scanned the page, and she gasped, He's a billionaire. Daniel Calloway. You're not joking. Maya's shoulders shook as she nodded, the tears now freely falling. I can't believe this, all these years, just being kind, and now this, she whispered, her voice breaking. She thought of her younger brother at home, the sacrifices she had made to keep him in school, the endless nights of work and exhaustion. She had never done it for recognition, yet here it was, proof that every act of patience, every bit of care, every moment she chose kindness over frustration, had mattered. And not just mattered to anyone, but to someone extraordinary. She folded the note carefully and tucked it into her apron pocket, trying to steady her breathing. Her heart pounded, and a strange excitement mingled with disbelief. Tomorrow, she would meet him. Tomorrow, her life might change forever. But for now, she let herself sit for a moment, tears flowing freely, feeling the weight of a lifetime of unnoticed effort being lifted in a single, transformative gesture. For Maya, the ordinary night of serving food had turned into an extraordinary moment of recognition, validation, and hope. And she knew that nothing in her life would ever feel quite the same again. The next morning, the city streets were alive with the usual rhythm of honking cars, early commuters, and the faint smell of fresh coffee from corner cafes. Maya's mind, however, was elsewhere. She had barely slept, her thoughts consumed by the folded note in her apron pocket and the words that had changed her life overnight. She kept rereading them in her head. I am Daniel Calloway. I have spent years searching for someone who understands the true meaning of hospitality. The weight of those words made her heart race and her hands tremble. She arrived at the office building, nerves buzzing in her stomach like a swarm of bees. The sleek glass doors reflected her anxious expression back at her, and for a moment she hesitated, wondering if she was truly ready for whatever awaited inside. With a deep breath, she stepped forward. This was no ordinary morning, no ordinary meeting. This was the day her life might change forever. The receptionist greeted her politely and led her down a quiet corridor lined with polished wood and abstract artwork. The air smelled faintly of fresh paper and expensive coffee, and the soft hum of activity in distant offices created a rhythm that made her pulse quicken. Mr. Calloway will see you now, the receptionist said, her voice calm and professional. Maya's knees felt slightly weak as she followed the instructions, and then she was standing in a large office, sun streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. Behind a massive desk sat a man in a crisp suit, perfectly groomed, radiating calm authority. His eyes, sharp yet kind, immediately found hers. Maya, he said, standing and extending a hand. I'm glad you came. Her breath caught. The moment she had imagined 1,000 times in her mind was finally here, but nothing could have prepared her for the reality of it. She shook his hand, feeling the firm but gentle grip of someone confident yet approachable. I can't believe this, she stammered. I read your note, but, her voice faltered, overwhelmed by a mixture of awe, disbelief, and joy. He smiled, sitting back down. You don't have to believe it yet. I understand. Most people would be in shock if someone they served last night turned out to be me. His gaze was steady, calm, and somehow reassuring. But the truth is, Maya, I saw something rare in you. Patience. Kindness. Dedication that goes beyond just doing a job. You made every person feel important last night, whether they were a child spilling juice, an elderly couple struggling to read the menu, or me sitting quietly in a corner. That is a gift few possess. Maya felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes again. She had worked long nights, endured exhaustion, and often gone unnoticed, yet here was a man, someone extraordinary, recognizing her not for the uniform she wore, not for the job she did, but for who she truly was. I don't know what to say, she whispered. I've always just tried to do my best. I never expected anything like this. Daniel leaned forward slightly. And that's exactly why I wanted to meet you. You don't act out of greed, ambition, or recognition. You act out of integrity. That kind of dedication and heart doesn't go unnoticed forever. It's rare. And it's valuable. Maya's emotions swelled, gratitude, shock, relief, and all mingling together. Her mind flashed through her life, The long hours, the sacrifices she had made for her younger brother, the night she had returned home exhausted but still smiling. Every small act of care, every patient word, every moment of empathy had led her here, to this office, to this meeting. "I want to offer you an opportunity," Daniel continued, his tone gentle but firm. "Something beyond this restaurant. I want you to help train and inspire staff across my entire chain. I want others to see what you bring to the table, not just skill, but heart." Maya felt her breath catch. Her dreams had always been modest: stability, a chance to support her family, maybe someday a role where her efforts mattered more than just tips and polite smiles. But this was beyond anything she had dared to imagine. Tears slipped freely down her cheeks now, unrestrained. Daniel handed her a small handkerchief, smiling warmly. "It's okay," he said softly. "You deserve this moment. You've earned it, even if you didn't know it." Maya pressed the handkerchief to her face, overwhelmed with a mixture of disbelief and joy. She was still the same person who had tied her apron that evening, who had worked quietly on the restaurant floor, yet in this office, her life had shifted in an instant. Recognition, opportunity, and hope all converged in this single moment, validating years of effort, sacrifice, and unwavering kindness. For the first time, she allowed herself to truly believe. Her hard work, her patience, her heart had finally been seen, and it mattered more than she ever knew. Maya walked out of the office building into the crisp morning air, her heart pounding in a mixture of disbelief, relief, and pure joy. The city around her was alive with noise, the honking of cars, the chatter of pedestrians, the smell of fresh coffee drifting from cafes, but it all felt distant, almost unreal. For a moment, she just stood on the sidewalk, staring at the rising sun, letting the reality sink in. She thought about the note, the words that had changed everything overnight. "You served me with dignity and kindness. I have spent years searching for someone who understands the true meaning of hospitality. I want to meet you to discuss a new opportunity." And then the encounter in the office, Daniel Calloway, the billionaire, sitting before her, acknowledging her heart, her patience, her effort. Maya had dreamed of stability, of making life a little easier for her younger brother, of being recognized for her hard work, but nothing could have prepared her for this moment. Tears welled up again, and this time she let them fall freely. They weren't tears of sadness, or exhaustion, or frustration. They were tears of relief, of hope, of validation. For years, Maya had poured her heart into her work, often going unnoticed. She had smiled through long nights, listened patiently to rude customers, helped families and children without complaint, and carried herself with dignity through every difficult shift. And now, someone extraordinary had finally noticed, not just for efficiency, but for the person she was inside. Maya pressed a hand to her chest, feeling the rhythm of her heartbeat slow as the emotions coursed through her. She thought of her younger brother, still asleep at home, unaware of the life-changing moment that had unfolded. She imagined telling him, seeing his eyes widen in surprise and pride. All the sacrifices, the late nights, the careful budgeting, it had led to this. The thought made her chest tighten with gratitude and joy. Walking toward a nearby park bench, she sat down and pulled out the note again, reading it slowly, savoring every word. She could see Daniel's handwriting, deliberate and confident, every line carrying meaning, and she could feel the weight of his respect for her. It was rare, she thought, for someone to see the effort behind kindness, to truly understand the invisible work that went into caring for others. And yet here he was, acknowledging it in a way that made her feel seen. Truly seen. Her mind drifted back to last night at the restaurant. The family with the spilled juice, the elderly couple with the dim light, the students laughing over their meals. She realized that every small act of patience, every little gesture of care, had built a bridge to this very moment. She had never done it for recognition, yet recognition had found her anyway, in the most unexpected and extraordinary way. A gentle breeze swept through the park, carrying with it a sense of calm and clarity. Maya wiped her tears, took a deep breath, and smiled to herself. She had worked tirelessly for others, often ignoring her own fatigue, yet the validation she felt now was profound. It was more than just praise, it was a confirmation that her kindness mattered, that her work had value beyond monetary reward, and that her heart could change the way people experience the world, even if only in small moments at first. Her thoughts wandered to the future. She knew that meeting Daniel Calloway wasn't just about a job or a promotion. It was about an opportunity to expand her impact, to share her philosophy of service, and to inspire others. She imagined training staff across the restaurant chain, teaching them not only how to serve food efficiently but also how to treat people with respect, patience, and empathy. The idea made her pulse quicken with excitement. She had always wanted to make a difference, and now she had a chance to do it on a scale she hadn't dreamed possible. Maya's hands trembled slightly as she folded the note carefully and placed it in her pocket. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting herself absorb the enormity of it all. This was the turning point she had been waiting for, though she hadn't known it existed. All the invisible moments of care, all the quiet sacrifices, had built toward this extraordinary recognition. As she stood to leave the park, a sense of determination settled over her. She knew that this was just the beginning. Life had opened a door, and she was ready to walk through it. Her tears had dried, but the feeling of hope and possibility remained, strong and steady. Maya smiled again, this time with the quiet confidence of someone who had been seen, valued, and given the chance to rise. The world felt bigger, brighter, and full of opportunity. And for Maya, the realization was simple yet profound. Acts of kindness, no matter how small or unnoticed, have a way of finding their way back to you, often when you least expect it, yet exactly when you need it most. The following morning, Maya woke with a sense of anticipation that made it impossible to stay in bed. The sun had barely risen, but her heart felt wide awake, filled with a strange mixture of excitement, nervousness, and hope. Today was the day her life would shift, perhaps forever. She dressed carefully, choosing clothes that made her feel confident yet grounded. As she tied her shoes, she glanced at her reflection in the mirror. For the first time in years, she truly saw herself, not just a hard-working waitress, not just someone trying to make ends meet, but a person with talent, heart, and potential that deserved to be recognized. The walk to the office was different from any other commute she had ever taken. The city streets seemed brighter, the morning air fresher, and even the hum of traffic felt like it carried possibility. Her mind wandered to last night's events, the note tucked into the bill folder, the realization that the man she had served in disguise was none other than Daniel Calloway, a billionaire who had observed her patience, her kindness, and her dedication. She had spent years working hard, often unnoticed, yet somehow, all of that effort had led her here, to this moment where recognition was not just possible but real. When she arrived at the office, the receptionist greeted her warmly, almost as if she knew the significance of this day. Maya followed her down the familiar corridor, the polished floors reflecting her steady footsteps. And then she entered the office, where sunlight poured through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting a golden glow over everything inside. Daniel Calloway was there, standing as if he had been expecting her every step of the way, his calm presence filling the room with quiet authority and warmth. "Maya," he said with a smile, extending his hand once more, "welcome. I'm glad you came." She shook his hand, feeling a surge of emotion she could barely contain. The handshake, the eye contact, the simple acknowledgement, it all carried weight, a recognition of her worth and the value of her heart. Daniel gestured toward a comfortable chair. "Please, sit," he said. "I want to talk about your future, but first, I want you to know something. What I saw last night was rare. You have patience, empathy, and dedication that most people don't even realize they're missing. And the way you care for others, without expecting anything in return, is remarkable. That's why I wanted to meet you personally." Maya listened, tears welling up again, but this time they were tears of joy, not surprise. She had always given her best quietly, faithfully, and without expectation, and here was someone extraordinary acknowledging the value of her work and her heart. "I want you to help me," Daniel continued, "to train staff across my restaurant chain. I want them to learn what true service means, not just in terms of efficiency or etiquette, but in terms of care, kindness, and attention. I want your philosophy to become part of every restaurant, every interaction, every customer experience. You have the ability to inspire others, Maya, and I want you to do that on a large scale." Maya's hands trembled as she absorbed his words. She had dreamed of a better life, a life where her efforts mattered, but she had never imagined something like this, An opportunity not only to grow personally but to transform the lives of countless others through her example. Her heart swelled with gratitude, pride, and excitement. As she sat there, listening to Daniel outline her new role, she felt a sense of clarity she had never experienced before. This was more than a job or a promotion. This was validation of her values, her patience, and her integrity. It was proof that her dedication to kindness, even in small, often unnoticed ways, could create real change in the world. By the time the meeting ended, Maya's mind was racing with ideas, possibilities, and plans. She stepped out of the office into the bright morning sun, feeling lighter, stronger, and more confident than ever before. Her journey as a waitress had been filled with challenges, but those challenges had shaped her, prepared her, and brought her here, to the start of something extraordinary. As she walked back through the city streets, she realized that life had a way of rewarding those who never gave up, who worked quietly and sincerely, who treated others with respect and care even when no one was watching. Maya smiled, tears still lingering on her cheeks, and felt a surge of hope. This was not just the beginning of a new career. It was the beginning of a life where her efforts, her heart, and her compassion could shine fully. And in that moment, she knew, without a doubt, that the small acts of kindness she had offered all these years, smiles, patience, gentle words, quiet care, had led her here. Life, she realized, had a way of returning goodness to those who gave it freely, and for Maya, this was only the beginning.